Welcome to the B Sound Podcast. Today we welcome Zach Hagen. Mr. Hagen is a podcast creator and a musician out of Northeast Iowa and the co-creator of The Record Button, a budding production company that focuses on creating non-musical audio projects. Hey, Zach, thanks for being here today.
Yeah. Hey, Dan. Not a problem. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks. It's good to see you. So if you don't mind, can you tell the audience who you are and what you do?
As you mentioned in my bio, my name is Zach. Normally with our podcast, I go by Z or Mr. Hagen. Just depends. But you can call me whatever you want. But I am with a friend of mine and I started this podcast production company it was late 2020 is when we officially started it, called The Record Button. And what we do is we work on the creation of podcasts, audio dramas. We plan to work on audiobooks sometime in the future. And we also work with we do both direct creation of podcasts. So like we have our own ideas and we put our own stuff together, or we can work collaboratively with other people to produce other people's podcasts and bring them to life. We are working on one of those right now. I can't give too many details because they're not all together yet. But we have some things, coming up in the future that we're working with other creators on, and we're pretty excited about that. But yeah, we're working on creating a podcast network of sorts.
Right on, right on. And I mean, I know you from a while back as a musician too. So you still do music, or?
Yeah. So I do play music, just as a live musician. Right now that my musical projects are a little bit of a hiatus at the moment. Pandemic hit us pretty hard. So I'm trying to get things together, and the band unfortunately fell apart. We had a few too many people leave for personal reasons, jobs, life, whatever. But no bad blood or anything. It's all good. But I'm still working on that. But the podcasting has actually been a nice musical outlet for me as well, because pretty much any music that you hear in our podcasts is created by me. So it gives me a little bit. It sort of gives me a best of both worlds kind of thing. I get to, I get to mix and build because I do the technical producing for all of our shows. But I get to mix and build and stuff, and then when we need to add a little bit of flavor, I get to do some composing, which is always fun.
Nice. So, okay. So where could we hear some of these podcasts? Like where?
So we are on all major audio streaming platforms. You can hear Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, I know, is a popular one when it comes to podcasts. We also do have a YouTube channel, which it's the Record Button production group. And you can, currently we just have our two podcasts that we have going on right now. Like I said, we have some stuff working in the background. Gears are churning, but we have two that are currently out there. We have Wasteland Active Radio, which is a audio drama. That was actually the very first project that we ever created. And it's an audio drama based around the Fallout video games. If anybody's a gamer, they probably know what Fallout is. And it's post-apocalyptic, and follows the story of Crispy the Ghoul, which is if anybody doesn't know what a ghoul is listening, it's a human being that's been irradiated to such a point where they basically look like they're all like shriveled, and they look kind of like zombies, but they can survive radiation, and they live to be like several hundred years old because of it. And he starts up a radio station. Like he finds an old busted down radio station in the Midwest, in northern Indiana, or Illinois, not Indiana, Illinois. I'm forgetting my own stuff here. He gets it all started up and everything, and works with a mercenary company to create a community, and there's like we have several different characters that come and go, and it went for about it's done now, but you can listen to the whole story. It was about 2 years long that we ran it, three seasons, and it was a real good project to start things off with, and really get us moving in terms of podcasting. But we have a current project, which is only about a month or two old now. Let's see. Yeah, like we started in late July. So it's called Why Did I Write This? It is a podcast based around based around the concept that of so when you're a kid and you write something down, you write a story or a poem or something, and you think this is the greatest thing I've ever written in my life, and then you put it away and you find it years later and you look at it and you're just like, what the hell? And that's the whole thing. It's where we have 3 hosts, Harmony, Beth, and Anna, and they go through their old writing that they did as children and teens, and we just read through them and make fun of them and just tear the whole thing apart. It's a blast. It's absolutely hilarious in just the best way, and it's so full of cringe, but you just can't help but laugh along. So
sure, yeah.
We release episodes on that every Wednesday, and I think we're up. We just released our episode 9 this pretty recently, and so it's a good time.
Just from my own experience, writing, I write a lot, and it's like just stuff I wrote like 6 months ago. I look back and I'm like, oh man, what was I thinking about that?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, and it's really cool to. It's something that you don't really think about all that much until you have to. Most of the time, I think it's because people are like, I really hope nobody hears this. Like, what the hell? And but this is just like, you know what? We're throwing caution to the wind. Let's just let's let the world hear it, and we'll all have a good time. So, yeah.
Well, some of the most fun stuff for me is when people are willing to be vulnerable, and it's like that vulnerability just invites some kind of, it's like a warmth or something. There's relatability to it, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's relatable is definitely one thing that is a common term that I hear a lot when I tell people about the podcast. They're just like, oh, that's a very relatable topic. And I'm like, well, good. You should listen to it then.
So are you a podcast fan? Is that what put you on the path to creating podcasts yourself?
I enjoy podcasts. Admittedly, my partner, my cohort, as I like to call him, listens to podcasts way more than I do. He was just telling me the other day he listens to podcasts like most people watch TV. And I enjoy podcasts. I know like Rhett and Link have their podcast Ear Biscuits. I listen to that every now and again. And there's some other podcasts that I've picked up since starting to create podcasts. But me, I like to create. And this part of the whole thing was my cohort's idea. We used to work together years ago, and we both like Fallout. And he's like, I can do this cool ghoul impression. And I was like, oh, cool. We started talking about it. And it's like, we could do something with this. And so we started plans to make this podcast. And I was like, it's something to make. Cool. Why not? And like, and I hadn't really gotten into podcasting before that, like listening to them in general. But I've definitely picked it up more. As within the last couple of years, but I've never generally been one to really sit down and listen to them. I'm usually running around and doing stuff, so I don't get the chance to like sit down and pay attention
right
to the stuff. But I've always enjoyed them. I've never disliked podcasts by any definition.
There's such a wide variety for everyone. Like your friend probably has enough to listen to because there's so many out there that it is almost like TV.
There's a lot.
This podcast is for creatives and creative people. So what got you on the path to being a creative person? I'm curious about that.
I've sort of always been on the path of a creative. I don't really know when I couldn't tell you when I started because growing up I've always been into music and into stuff like that. I guess probably my senior year in high school, I started we had a production media class and that taught us we did a news show and stuff like that for high school. And, my teacher showed us how to do the audio stuff and put everything together. And I guess as far as a digital creative sense goes, that's probably when something flipped in my brain. There's I want to do this is something I legitimately want to do. And, but I've always been a creative person, but being as far as being a creative, what you or other folks are that actually create things and do things. I would say if I had to pick a point, that's probably when it started. But I didn't really get into it until probably college. I just like to make things. I like to entertain people. I like to make people smile. It makes me smile. So
yeah, well, that's cool. Is there something that in particular where you were wow, this thing that I did, it's really reaching people and fulfilling some kind of need for them? Is there something that you've had like that, or is it just kind of little things here and there? Because I know for me, it's a lot of the little things.
Yeah, I would say mostly it's a lot of little things. Where I'll play as a musician, I'll play a show and someone will come up to me after the show I really enjoyed X and Y song that you played. It really spoke to me. That was really good. It's all, those I loved it. And that moments small moments like that, where I'm just okay, something I made actually made sense to you and spoke to you. So that was fantastic. But I think one of the things that big moment that really hit me in terms of being it was this is why I do this. This is important to my life is the moment where so Wasteland Active Radio, as I mentioned before, it's been on the air, I guess you could say, for about 2 years, a little over now. And because we ended it at the beginning of July, basically right before summer started. And we recently switched hosts. We used to go through Anchor. Now we go through a site called Transistor because we have multiple podcasts, and it allows us to host multiple shows without having to make more than one account, which I thought was cool. And so, but the only thing is I can now see our download numbers, and I think so I have no idea what our downloads were before we switched, but Wasteland Active Radio knocked over 2,000 downloads within a month and a half. And it was that moment where I was people actually like this. I knew people liked it before because we've had people reach out and say, there's another moment actually, now that I think about it, is a guy messaged our Facebook page for Wasteland Active Radio, because that does still have an individual Facebook page. And he's I found this show when I was going through a really tough time in my life, and the show, you actually really helped me get my mind together. And I love the fact that this exists. Thank you so much. And it was okay, you just made my year. Because we never thought that this would get popular. We're just all right, let's make it, whatever. Even if nobody listens to it, we still had fun.
Sure.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
So I'm curious then, why did you end it? Is it just the story was done, or?
The story was done. I actually didn't really want to end it. and we're in talks about doing like a spin-off for it in the future. Probably next year. We don't have an official start date or anything like that yet. We're still working on, getting scripts together and working on stuff. But it was mostly just the story. It was when the story needed to wrap up.
Yeah.
We don't have a ton of writers or anything like that right now. And it just got to the point where it just reached that peak and it made sense that that's where it needed to end. And so we're just like, all right, let's wrap it up.
Right.
It was a very bittersweet thing for me. Cause I'm like, I'm really, really upset to see this end because it's been so fun. But at the same time, it's like, okay, we have other projects to do too. And, I can understand. I can literally see in the story, I'm like, okay, it has to end here because otherwise we're going to be forcing it and it's not going to be as good. Cause you get those shows, like story-based shows where it's like, there's a clear cut spot where it's like, okay, you could have ended here and it would have been perfect, but you decided to try to stretch it out and it's not as good because you're just grasping at straws for ideas for the story. And it's like, okay, you now it's just not good.
That's a lot of television shows.
Yep.
The serialized ones anyway.
Yeah.
So are you guys then taking new shows, or is that something you're on the lookout for? Or like you're hunting for like people who want to be on your network for podcasting?
Yeah, actually we are. So, yeah, we're always on the look for folks that are looking for production services for their shows, and who'd like to be part of our crew, be under our umbrella. We can help with recording, mixing, script writing if it's a story based thing, or anything like that. But yeah, we're always on the lookout for folks who'd want to be part of the, be a button pusher,
sure,
as I like to call us.
So one of the things I ask on here all the time is, in your creative journey, have you had any mentors?
Yes and no. I never really had any like official mentors, but like I've had several teachers when it comes to technical things. Like I've taken one or two, including high school, like production classes and stuff like that. So as far as like tech stuff goes, I guess you could say those teachers were kind of mentors of mine, but I actually sort of look to other creatives as unofficial mentors, people that I can, that are like, if people are doing really well in their craft and stuff like that, it's like, okay, well, like, what are they doing that is working so well? And how can I make that my own without, I don't want to copy necessarily, but it's like, how can that also boost us? And so I like to look at just other creatives that are doing well, and I kind of, if they're doing well, and they're doing good things, they're not just like, all right, we're going to talk about butts for 20 minutes and you're going to laugh. Like, okay, whatever. That's funny. I'm immature as like the next guy. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, that doesn't really pertain to me. So, but anybody else, it's like, okay, well, you're doing well. So if there's a reason, I'm going to look to you, and I'm going to try to figure out what's going on. And so you could like inadvertently teaching me indirectly. I'm always learning. I try to do a lot of our marketing and stuff for the record button as well. It's what I went to school for and stuff. So, I'm always learning. I'm always trying to up my game, as it were. So,
sure.
So yeah, a lot of indirect mentors, but I haven't had a lot of like actual. I've never had like a mentorship or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. That's cool. That's interesting though. So you said you went to school for marketing?
Yeah, I did. Yes, I went to I graduated from the University of Northern Iowa. And I had a a major in communication and a minor in digital marketing. So I took plenty of like content creation. A lot of stuff was like marketing around like content creation and stuff like that. There was one class where we literally had to, I think it was called digital advertising, where we literally, one of our tasks was we had to create a brand of sorts, and we had to make a Twitter account for it and stuff like that, and had to do things. My big one was this isn't a thing anymore, obviously, but my big idea was I called it venucality, and it was a thing about, I had to make up a word because I couldn't think of anything else. And it was trying to bring together venues and artists, like musicians. So I interviewed like local musicians and put it on the web, like put it on the blog, put it on the website. And I also was trying to interview like venue owners. So that way, like you could look at the thing and it's like, venues could look at the website and be like, oh, this is an up and coming artist, I should contact them. And artists could also be like, oh, there's a venue on here, they sound cool because this owner sounds cool, I'm going to contact them for try to play a show there or something like that. I was just trying to like bridge the gap. And but yeah, I had to make like a Twitter account and all sorts of other stuff and try to learn how to push content in that regard. And that was an interesting assignment.
Yeah. Was it successful or?
Yeah, it was fairly successful. About as successful as it could have been. Admittedly, I'm not great with Twitter. I'm always, like I said, I'm always learning. I'm always trying to get better. But that's definitely my weak spot. And so it didn't go, like, I think I got a B+, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I interviewed quite a few people, and you know, got a pretty good, decent, if I remember right, this is a couple years ago. Like I graduated in 2017 and this was like two years before that. So I was like, I can barely remember what I did last week. So
sure.
It was a tough assignment because marketing is hard. Trying to get people to pay attention to what you're doing is hard sometimes.
It can be. I like marketing a lot. Like I didn't know I liked it. And I went into college with a minor in marketing as well. And the more I took with marketing, the more I'm like, wow, this is kind of interesting and really neat. And they were always pointing out the show Mad Men, which I still haven't seen, but they kept saying like, there's so many great marketing techniques in that show. Have you ever seen that?
I have actually not. I've heard really good things about Mad Men, but I haven't actually sat down and watched it yet. No.
Okay. I was just curious.
It's one on my list for sure because I've heard a lot of fantastic things about it.
So in your creative journey, what was the biggest hurdle you've had and how did you overcome that?
It's a combination between technology / equipment and logistics. So when, as I'm sure you know, Dan, doing podcasts and stuff, you still need to have relatively decent equipment, just so you can come across clearly and people know what, can hear you and there's not buzzing.
Right.
Because you can do a podcast with as little as your phone, but at the same time, that's not like it's good for a starter route, but you don't want to keep going that way because it's not going to be great quality over time. So just making sure that you have relatively decent equipment within your budget that is going to do the job. And as well as depending on what you're doing, like we've done both standard talk podcasts, kind of like this one, or like we've done audio dramas. And audio dramas is actually, for the logistics part, is more of what I'd focus on in being tougher because there's a lot more people involved usually. Because our talk podcast, there's 5 people involved. There's our 3 hosts, me and my cohort. That's it. It's pretty easy to say, hey, I'll meet up this time, this day, be there. Like it's all good to go. But with audio dramas, it's like there's a million people. There's like different parts you have to figure out, make sure everybody knows their lines, make sure everybody gets their stuff set up, deadlines. And there's just a lot of organization involved. and it gets to be very stressful. I love it. I don't get me wrong at all. I love it to death. I love doing audio dramas actually, but I have a lot of hair, but I'm surprised I haven't torn any of it out yet, because there's been plenty of times where I'm just like, why can't you just turn this in on time or whatever? It's not that hard. But you know, it is what it is when you work with people. And I absolutely love it. I wouldn't want to do anything else, but it's just like, so every now and again, those are some of the biggest obstacles where you gotta make sure your technology works, and you gotta make sure your people work.
Yeah. They're both tough things to do.
I've met some great people doing this stuff, like fantastically talented individuals. But every now and again, I'm just like, why?
Sometimes really talented people are difficult to work with as well, but
yeah, it's true. And I'm sure people have said the same thing about me. I'm like,
oh, sure.
Maybe not the talented part, more the difficult part. That's what I was aiming at. But that's the real obstacle, is just making sure that everybody is on the ball, making sure that everything comes together when it needs to. So that way you can you can stay on schedule. And because as I'm sure you know, release schedule is pretty important. And it's always been very important to me. So
Right. Well, what do you do about that? Because it's like, okay, like with me, I'll be like a tyrant sometimes. Like I'll just be like, guys, we need to do this. We got to have this done. I need this done, whatever. And it, I don't want to be the bad guy in the situation, but at the same time, stuff needs to get done and somebody's got to take the reins, right? So
whenever I work with new people, I always apologize up front, because I'm generally a pretty kind person. I do my very best to be very understanding. I'll work with anybody. It's like, if you're going to be late with like your parts or whatever, it's like, hey, I have tech issues, or I'm sick or whatever. And it's like, I'm not able to get this like exactly when you need it. I'll just be like, all right, well, thanks for telling me ahead of time. I can work with you. What do you need? Yada, yada, yada. Let's work together, get this done. But there's been several times when there's been people like, they'll get me stuff right at the deadline or a little bit after. And I'm just like, dude, you cannot do this. There's been several times when I was like, this happened with like one or two people. I had everything else together. Everything else. It was just like one or two people, and they got me their stuff super, super, super late. And I was up until like 4 a.m. the night before, editing, trying to get this done. And I was just like, you do this again and you will never be part of this show.
Right.
Like, ever. I am not afraid to replace you if it means keeping our release schedule constant. Like, that's a point of pride with me. And like, but I always apologize. Like, I may come off as a bulldog. This is the one area of my life. I am not afraid to be a bulldog.
Right.
I'm just like, nah, we're cracking whips right now. I am not afraid to be an asshole if I have to be.
Yeah.
That's usually the only time. If you're like, you're considerate, that's the best word here. Like, if you're considerate and you tell me, like, if there's a problem, you tell me ahead of time, and it's like, I'll happily work with you. It's like, hey, let's get this done, whatever. But if you mess around on me, I've replaced a guy on our show before because he messed around on me.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I'm not afraid to replace you. I will replace you even if it's the day before, like the night before the show, because the show release, because you were messing around and not getting your stuff done.
Right. And especially like when it's an ensemble of people, it's like, well, you have other people relying on, one person and they're not getting their job done. It's like, well, what else can you do?
I always tell them, it's like, it's not personal. It's just for the show.
Right.
Yeah, it is what it is. I'm gonna reel it in here because I'm gonna feel like I'm gonna start going on a tirade. But
it's okay.
That's the one area in my life I'm just like, don't mess with my show, man. Do not mess with my show. I will do things I don't want to do. I won't hurt you, but I will cut you out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel you there. I do. I really do. And well, so that brings me to another question I like to ask a lot. And do you think that you have any unique skills that have helped you along the way?
A combination of my ability to work well with people, for the most part. I mean, obviously coming off of that whole, but
yeah,
I've got my Devil Wears Prada side, but it is what
everybody
it is.
does. Everybody does.
Right. I'm generally very good with people, and making relationships and stuff, and so it's allowed me to find really good talent and get just make a lot of friends out of this, that have helped us out. But also just my ability to multitask, because I can. There's been plenty of times when I'll be editing, working on marketing, and a bunch of stuff all in one session, I guess you could call it. And just the ability to get shit done. I know how to I know how to buckle down and really try to get stuff done, but also the ability to edit and also be able to write music at the same time helps quite a bit, because that saved us a lot of money in royalty costs, or like licensing fees.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, hey, if we need music, I'll just write it. It's easy. Well, because I've practiced it long enough that it's like, okay, let me just throw something together really fast. It's so we don't have to go and buy license fees for stuff. I mean, I've had to do that for sound effects and stuff like that. I'm not that good at Foley, but music, no problem.
I listened to a couple of the podcasts that you had, specifically the one that's fantasy based, right?
Oh, the Wasteland Active Radio, the Fallout one?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for saying it, because I could not think of the name.
No problem.
I listened to it, and I did notice there's a lot of music in there and sound effects and whatnot. Is that all you then?
Yep. Season 1, the credits song is not me.
Mm-hmm.
We give attribution rights in the credits. Both, if you listen, the credits is actually me. I voice the credits for the show in all 3 seasons, and in the first season, I was still kind of getting my musical setup together, my computer and everything like that. So I was like, you know what, we can do small things, but I wasn't really feeling comfortable in trying to come up with a theme song or a credits song. So we grabbed one online, and he just had an attribution. It was just an attribution license. So, we gave him credit in the credits, verbally, as well as in the description. So that's really the only song that isn't mine. But everything else, the ambience and all that stuff, that's all me.
Wow. So you are doing some of the Foley work and stuff too. That's
a little bit. But it's mostly the ambient music is about as far as I've gone. My cohort, Jamie, he's done, he did quite a bit of Foley work for the first, it was the season 1 and half of season 2, but then we just got busy with other things, so I was just like, I'll just grab sound effects off the internet. He's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's if it speeds things up, that's all good with me. And I was like,
right.
Yes, sir.
Well, it sounds like it's been through quite the evolution, really.
Yeah, it's been that podcast was a real labor of love, because we started that one actually in, I want to say it was 2014. And that's when we worked together and everything. We're like, let's try it. And neither of us really knew what we were doing. I was getting into the sound editing of my on my own stuff and everything, and he always liked to write, so we're just let's doodle around with it and see what we're gonna do. We got 3 episodes done, and it fizzled. At that time we tried it it was Crispy, the Ghoul, who was the host, but we tried it like an actual radio show. So like Crispy would talk, and then we found music from like the 1930s and stuff that were like Fallout-esque that we could use, and we'd play the music and stuff, and then Crispy would talk some more and stuff like that. And it got a little bit of traction, but not a whole lot. And all of my friends that I talked to about it, like, oh, listen to it. It's not bad, but it's a little boring. You need to like have more talking in it. And I was like, that's fair. That's totally fair. And then, but yeah, we were working on the third episode, and life just kind of got in the way, and was like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. So, but then we ran into each other, a couple years ago. And, cause I hadn't talked to him for a while. It was just, he dropped off Facebook, and just cause he doesn't like social media that much, which is fair, honestly. But I ran into him at one of his new jobs, and I was like, oh dude, what's up? And we, got to catching up again. We're like, we should try that audio drama again, cause that was fun, but we like should probably put a plan together. And we did. And yeah, it, basically he wrote out this whole story, and he's like, all right, let's put this together. And it's like, all right, well, okay, so we have structure. Let's actually build this thing out the way it deserves to be built out. And as far as I am concerned, there's plenty of people that I'm sure would disagree with me just by numbers alone. But as far as I am concerned, shit blew up. It took a while. It's almost never instantaneous.
Right.
But after a little while, popularity really revved up fairly quickly. It's easily been the most popular project I've ever been a part of. In terms of numbers, we've got listeners worldwide. We had one guy be a guest on a couple episodes who is from Stockholm, Sweden.
Nice.
But yeah, we've got guests from different states throughout the, got one guy from like the Seattle area, one guy from Texas, one girl from Georgia. And that one's really been a ride, and it's really gotten us like into the podcasting world, and really bolstered our love for creation. And so we were just like, you know what, let's try to actually do this. So we started the record button, which I put in the credits as a joke originally. Because if you listen to Wasteland Active Radio, whenever I do the credits, I'd say, brought to you by the record button. And I was just like, I couldn't think of anything else to say right there. And I was like, you know what? I'm literally hitting the record button. So, I was like, it's brought to you by the record button. And my cohort was like, actually, I'd like to, like, if we should start a network and actually call it that. And I was like, I was joking, right? He's like, oh yeah, I know, but I like it, and I think we should try it. I'm like, yeah, all right, fair enough.
I love those kind of things that happen spontaneously like that. That's a great story.
Yeah. So we're just like, yeah, let's go ahead and start. And so, we picked up, we already had some friends that wanted us to make a podcast for them. And that's why did I write this? And we're, working on that right now. And then we're in talks with a couple other guys to do another type of podcast. So we're starting to branch out. We've got our own official website now, recordbuttongroup.com, where we talk about our different, we list out the different projects that we're doing right now. We're always looking. We're always looking to add to the network. We're just starting out right now. So, if anybody is looking to have a podcast produced, hit us up.
Right on. Yeah, it's fun to do a podcast. If anybody's listening, it's really fun.
It really is.
I'm curious about the writing aspect of your podcast. Are you following like a hero's journey or anything like that? Or is it much less structured?
My cohort, Jamie, does he's our lead writer. He, I can write song lyrics and poetry and stuff like that. But when it comes to like novelizations, no. I fizzle out pretty quickly. But that's where he shines. He's very good at writing scripts, and writing stories. He plays a lot of D&D, and I think that's kind of where part of that came from.
Right.
It's sort of the hero's journey aspect, but it's not quite like hard set into that trope. There's plenty of twists and turns, because there's like Crispy is definitely, like, when it comes to Wasteland Active Radio, Crispy is definitely the main guy. He's at the beginning of the show, and he's at the end of the show. He's our main focus. So you could call him our hero. But the term of hero actually really applies to our main like core group, because there's 6 different characters that we gain along the road. So it's like it's like the party has the term hero imbued within them. So, because there's Crispy, who's the ghoul. There's Atlas, who's a super mutant. There's Bucket, who is a Protectron robot, if I could say the word. Protectron robot who's glitched, and he has bouts of what's the word? Existential dread every now and again. So it's like he'll be talking normally, and then every now and again it's like, I want to die. Please destroy me. But we do it with taste. Both Jamie and I both have depression and anxiety and stuff. So it's like, the mentally ill are writing a mentally ill character. But it's also a robot, so you wouldn't think that it would be there. But we've also got Johnny, who is a human but wears power armor and is our robotics expert and computer hacker. And then there's Dave, who have you ever played Fallout 3?
I've played Fallout, but not to any long extent. Just like an hour here, an hour there for different Fallouts.
That's fair. Fallout 3 has a character named Dave who is part of the Wasteland. There is a little patch, a little village called the Republic of Dave, and Dave is basically like the dictator of this place. He's an asshole. He's very pompous, and he pretends to be the president, but everybody always votes him in whenever they have a quote unquote election, because there's a mission where you can talk somebody else into running against him and make them win. And then Dave is like, this is ridiculous, and runs off. So we built this in where Dave is actually that Dave, where it's like the timeline where he runs off and stays alive, and he ends up in the Midwest, because this Fallout 3 is in the capital Wasteland, so that's like Washington DC, Pennsylvania, that kind of area. Okay. But he ends up in Illinois and tries to take over the radio station, and Crispy knocks him in the head 1.5 million times with a frying pan. It gives him partial brain damage, so he still walks and he still functions like a human being, but it damaged his the part of the brain that allows him to speak properly. The only word that he can say is hello, because that was the last word he said before getting pummeled. Oh. This Dave is actually it's a character that Jamie and I made years ago. We were messing around. And we came up with so many inside characters, like, we should write Dave into this story. And we found a way to do it. But Dave is a crack shot with a gun, with a rifle. So he can only say hello. He loves beef jerky, and he's he's still an asshole, but he's really, really, really good with a gun. So he comes in handy a lot.
Right.
And then there is a character that doesn't come in until season 3 named Shoban, who is a former raider. She grew up in a family of raiders, but she's also a medic. That's like her real passion. She's not afraid to stab anybody if she has to, but she doesn't like to just randomly kill. She only kills in self-defense. But she's the team medic and heals up everybody. But she's a very much kind of a tomboy-esque. She's not afraid to smack a bitch if she has to. That's our main crew. And they go through there's some wild adventures.
Sounds like it.
That we send them through. It's a good time.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like you guys have such deep character development is what it sounds like. I'd love to see what you guys are going to do next, whether it be a spinoff or, a totally, new property that you're going to work on or whatever. I'd love to kind of get into something that you're going to do. So,
yeah, we are working our way around issuing a spinoff for Wasteland Active Radio. I can't give anything concrete because there's not really anything concrete to say right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're working on ideas for storylines and we're working on a couple other things, but yeah, we got a lot to figure out. It most likely will not be until next year at least, because we have a couple other things on the docket yet that we need to do. But currently we're releasing new episodes of Why Did I Write This? Right now, that's our main show right at the moment. And I think I mentioned this earlier, that we're releasing episodes every Wednesday, and I was actually editing a couple episodes before we had this interview, and there's a lot of just great moments in these upcoming episodes. There's plenty of we have stories with original characters that our hosts have come up with, and they're all friends, but they know how to tear things to shreds, and they really don't pull any punches either. So it's all in jest and everything like that, but those episodes are a really good time, and I definitely am excited to see what everybody thinks, both about our current episodes that are actually, we have like 9 of them right now, and then the new ones that are coming up in coming weeks.
Yeah, I did listen to one of those too on YouTube, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of laughing going on, and just good-natured ribbing, I guess you could say.
That's the point of the whole thing, and we're here in the near future, we're still kind of getting some things set up, but here in the near future for that show, we're actually going to be setting up a Patreon, because we're working on getting some merch made up, and we gotta pay artists because they deserve money, and
definitely,
because we have merch for Record Button stuff, and we have merch for Wasteland Active Radio, so we got to get merch set up for this show as well. That's actually one link I forgot to give you. It's trbmerchstore.com is our official merch line. TRB, like the Record Button. Merch store.
The links will be in the description of the podcast. So, all right. So we're coming close to the end of the time here. And I just wanted to ask, is there anything that I did not ask you today, but maybe I should have asked?
Honestly, I don't think so. I think we covered everything. At least it feels like we covered everything.
Yeah.
I like long walks on the beach. I'm kidding.
Who doesn't? No,
I'm just messing. But as far as everything else goes, I think we've ran the gauntlet there, pal.
All right, cool. Was there any questions you had for me?
I think right now, I don't think so. Nope, you're doing a fantastic job. I've been keeping track a little bit of your show, and you're doing a great job with it. So just keep it up, man. Keep it up. And thank you very much for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And once again, for people at home, what is the main link someone can find you at? You can find us at so there's our website, recordbuttongroup.com. But you can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/TRBProductionGRP. I couldn't put the whole thing in there. It was character limits, but yes, it's so like the record button TRB production spelled out, and then it's GRP, so like shortened for group. You can follow. We also have an Instagram and a Twitter. The links are very similar, but yeah, you can follow us on Facebook, and we'd love to see you. We try to post just about every day. We got some fun interactive posts as well as updates on all of our shows. So sweet. All right, Zach, thanks for being here. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. Thank you.